What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to part 11 of the Build an Instagram App series. We're going to continue exactly where we left off. Make sure you destroy that like button down below for these daily uploads. Hit subscribe while you're at it if you've been enjoying the series. Let's continue on. So in the last video, we started setting up the cell we're going to use for this list view controllers instead of these random, the generic UI table view cell. So we went ahead and registered it in our controller, but we never laid out the actual subviews. So we're going to continue and we're going to lay out those subviews in here. And as a refresher, our subviews include two labels, an image view, and a button. So we're going to say, first and foremost, we're going to do the actual image view. So we're going to first say profile image view dot frame is going to be a CG rect with a XY width and height. And we're going to say the Y is 3. The height is going to be the content view dot height over, rather, subtracting 6. So we have an even buffer. And let's see. So this is going to be the size of the button. So let me actually go ahead and call this the width as well. So it's a square. And the X we'll say is 3 from the left. Now keep in mind, we want this to be a circle. So here we're going to say layer.corner radius is going to be, let's do it right below it after we assign the height of it, is going to be the height of the actual view over 2. And one thing I forgot to do in the last video is in the actual image view creation here in this anonymous closure, make sure you say layer masks to bounds is true, otherwise your circular radius won't show up. Let's close my antivirus pop-up that likes to make an appearance in every video. So that's the image view, and let me also set a background color to it so it's visible. So we're going to say background color of this guy is secondary system background. And let's see, the next thing we want to do is the two labels. So we're going to say label height is going to be content view.height over 2. Since we have two labels that'll be vertically set. The top one is going to be the name label, and we're going to say its frame is a CG rect with an XY width and height. X is going to be profile image view.right plus 5. Y will be 0. Width we'll do in a second, and this is going to be label height. So width is going to be the content view with subtracting the X of the image, so it's 3, subtracting the profile image view dot width. And we also want to subtract the width of the button, but we haven't done the button yet. So let's do these first. Let's paste that username one right below it. And the only thing that changes with this one is the Y. So this is going to be name label dot bottom. And we're going to do the button before this so we can reference its size. So we're going to first say button width. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to say if the content view's width is greater than 500, which implies that you're probably on an iPad, we're going to want a fixed width. We're going to say something like 250, or let's say 220. Otherwise, we're going to say it is content view.width divided by, let's say, 3. And we'll see what 3 looks like. And now let's set up the button, follower button frame. And this is going to be, again, CG rect. X will do in a second. This will say is 5. This is going to be content view.height over 10. Width is going to be button width. This is going to be content view.width, subtracting a 5-point buffer and the width of the actual button itself. Let's go ahead and line break all of these guys. And let's see, what else do we want to do? Let's go ahead and set some text and background to the button so we can actually see it. Let's say Joe for the name. And for this, we're going to say this is @Joe, which would be a pretty cool username to have. And the background color of this guy will be a link. And let's see, go ahead and hit Command R. Let's see if that shows up and what it looks like. Actually, one thing I forgot again is we want to subtract for these labels the button width, like I was talking about, for the width of the actual label. So subtract the button width, and we also want to subtract another 5 because we have a 5-point buffer on the actual button layout right here. So right now we're subtracting 3, so you can bump these to 8. But that's where that additional 5 is coming from. And let's see. So we're going to go to our profile now, and we're going to hit this. And all right, so we've got the button showing up. It looks about right. The height is pretty small of the cell, and I think the username label should have a more subtle color. So what it should actually look like is label.text color, and I believe there's a secondary label color. And let's go ahead and adjust the height of these cells. And we're going to do that in the list view controller. We're going to come in here, and wherever we're conforming to the table view stuff, which is right here actually, we are going to say height for row at index path. And let's say we're going to return 75. And now the view layout should accommodate the larger height because we used all relative numbers. And now you can see things are looking a little larger. This is obnoxiously tall. So what we should actually say is, because we know the height is going to be 75, we should say the button height is a fixed 50. So let's go find that button again. So we're going to say the height of the button is going to be a fixed 50. The y is going to be 75 over 50 divided by 2. So 75 subtracting 50 leaves us with 25 over 2 leaves us with 12, or rather, yeah, 12.5. And I think that should be good, and it should be vertically centered. So let's take one last look. And we're going to tweak all this UI at some point in the video series, because that's also still too large. I don't like it, but we'll adjust it as we move on. Let's try one more thing. Instead of doing 50, let's try 40. And this is, let's just do the math here. So we're going to say 75. Rather, we can say content view height minus 40 over 2. I don't want to waste too much time sitting here adjusting these numbers because it's not very helpful in terms of learning, but we'll say that's good enough for now. And of course, the image will show up here, and these need to be moved over, but whatever. So cool. So we need a model for this because right now we've been using just a string for configure with. So the things we want to configure are the username, name, button, and profile image view. So I am going to create a struct up here. And we're going to call this user follow state. Rather, I'm going to make this an enum and say this is follow state. And there's two cases, following and not following. And we're going to create a struct for the model, like I said. And this is going to be user relationship, we'll call it. I think that's probably a good term to categorize this. And there's going to be a username on here. It's going to be a name on here for the user. And finally, there's going to be a type on here, and this is going to be follow state. And based on this, of course, we're going to show one button or the other button. So let's now say configure with this kind of model instead of a string. And from here, we can say name label.text is model.name. Username label.text is model.username. And now we're going to switch on model, if I can spell switch correctly. Model.type, we're going to switch. And if the current person is following, show unfollow button. And otherwise, if not following, show follow button. Now, what's important to understand, this relationship is from the current logged in user to the user indicated by the model, not the inverse. This is not describing whether Joe here is following us back. It's whether we are following Joe or not following. So if we are following, we want to show unfollow. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say follow button, set title, unfollow, normal, and we're going to say follow button, background color is simply going to be system background. And we want to set a border. So follow button dot layer, border width is going to be 1, and border color is going to be UI color dot label dot CG color. So that is unfollow for you. And we should also set a title color because I'm not sure if it'll be appropriate from the get-go. So that'll be label for normal. And let's paste this so we can do not following. So we want to show a follow button. So this is going to be follow. Title color will be white every time. Background color will be system blue, or link rather. I think that's what we did up above. Border width will be 0. And background, or the border color, we don't need. So let's hit Command R. We're going to see an error because in the controller, we're passing in a string. And the other thing before we do that is in the delegate for this cell, change this to be a proper model rather than a string. And I don't think we hooked up the button in here. So in this initializer, go ahead and say follow button, add action, self, did tap follow button. And this is going to be touch up inside. And let's create that here. Did tap follow button. And in here we can simply say delegate did tap follow button and pass in the model, which is going to be model. Now we don't actually save this on the class. So what we're going to do is in configure with, we're going to say self.model is model. And we should hold on to this model in here. So we're going to come up here and say private var model is our model type optional since we don't start with it. And when we tap on the button, we're going to unwrap it. So we're going to say guardlet model equals model, else return. And now we can call the delegate. And let's see, what else do we want to do? We now want to also configure the cell with one of these models. So we're going to jump to this view controller here and get rid of this for a hot second. And we're going to want a collection on here. Let me add some comments to clean things up a little bit. So we're going to want a private var data will be a collection of these models. And I'm going to go ahead and create some dummy models in a second, but number of rows, actually we already have a collection. If I think about it, it's right there. It's called data. So let's not duplicate that. We can put that there. And in the cell for row, we actually want to configure it with the model. So we're going to say data index path dot row. And now this is going to complain because our call sites pass in strings. So let's go there. And let's see, this should be in the initializer, our model type. We should have 2 errors now. So in our list controller, we're passing in strings. So what I'm going to do is create some mock data right above it. So we're going to say mock data is going to be a collection of this. So we're going to say for x in 0 to 10, up to 10, we're going to say mock data append one of these models. And we're going to say username is going to be @Joe. Name will be Joe Smith. And the type we're going to say if X is even, just so we can see the different ones, we'll say following, otherwise not following. And let's go ahead and paste this in the one down below. Obviously, we're using the mock data just to visualize it for now. And we're going to have real data from Firebase once we hook that up. Hit Command R, and there are crashes. Wonderful. So let's see what we messed up. So this is a let constant. We should make it a mutable var. And we are now compiling. So hit Command R. Let's go ahead and hit these. And now you can see, oh, this border is a little harsh on the eyes. So maybe we need this to be subtle. But now we can basically see that we can configure this list, and tapping it, nothing actually happens right now. Tapping this should open a profile view controller. I don't like this selected action, or the color rather. So let's hop to our cell again, which is our user follow table view cell. And in the initializer, we can simply say selection style is none. And let's have our view controller conform to this. So go back to your list view controller. In cell for row at index, we want to say cell.delegate. Note its type is the one we added, is self. We're going to add an extension on this. And we're going to conform to it. And we're going to be lazy and wait for the error to pop up so we can hit the fix button. And in here, we can basically say switch model.type. And if the user is following, perform Firebase update to unfollow. And if the user is not following, we basically want to perform Firebase update to follow. So that's how that's going to work. And let's see, what did I forget to do in here? Case. We have a colon. Let's add a break in here for now since we don't have any functionality. And let's control I to align those. Now it's going to give us warnings for some parts of our code that we don't use, like this guy right here. So we can go ahead and ignore those for now. So let's see, what else do we want to do in this video? So we've been talking about the profile quite a bit. So let's do the notifications. So if you recall one of the very early videos, we were setting the title in notifications, and that's also setting the tab title down here, which we don't want. So what we are going to say is we're going to say navigation item dot title, which actually someone mentioned in the comments, and I forgot that's what it initially was, and that'll just set the top title and not the bottom, and that takes care of that. And we basically just want a table view in here. The other thing that I'll call out before we continue is if you go and hit Command-Shift-A, you'll notice everything is still dark mode compliant. I just like building in dark mode because I think it looks nicer, but we're taking care of all of that as we go through all of our view designs. So let's see. So we have a table view on here already, and I believe we're adding it. Let's see, you should see some lines here. Yep, we're adding it here for sure. We're gonna want to basically create another view on here, which is gonna show no notifications in the middle if the user doesn't have any. And we also wanna design two types of custom cells. One is a following kind, if someone followed you, and one is gonna be if a user liked a post. So let's do that other view. So this one is going to be private let no notifications view, and we're going to call this just a UI view for now. We're going to customize this one as well. And we can actually just create this like this because we don't actually need to customize it. But we're going to want a custom view internally for it. So I'm going to come into our view folder here, and not inside of cells. We're just going to create it here. We're going to do a new file. Cocoa Touch class, subclass of a UI view, and this is going to be no notifications view. And let's see, basically in here, what we want to do is override a few things. So we're going to override layout subviews. We're going to override the initializer, so init with frame, super init with frame, pass in the frame. And let's see, we can do that. Now we also want two subviews in here. First one is going to be a label. And this is basically going to just show the text of no notifications. We're going to say no notifications yet. It's text color. is going to be secondary label. Make sure you return the label. We're going to say label.text alignment is going to be centered, and label.number of lines will be 1. Now we also want to have a icon in here, so we're going to say private let image view is going to be of type image view, and we're going to create said image view in here, and we're going to try to spell things correctly. We're going to put parentheses here, return the image view, and let's see, what do we want for this? We're going to say the tint color is also secondary label. We're going to say the content mode is going to be scale aspect fit. And we're going to say the image is going to be a UI image with a system name. And I think the one we used below in the tab was called Bell. We'll see if that's correct. In the initializer, we're going to say add subview for the label, as well as the image view. And we simply want to lay out subviews now. So we are going to say that the image view.frame is going to be CGRect, XY width and height, Y will be 0. Width, we're going to say is, let's say 50, 50, and the X is going to be width of the current view, subtracting 50 over 2, and that will center it. And the labels frame is going to be simple as well. X will be 0, Y will be image view dot bottom. This is going to be the whole width, and this is going to be the height subtracting 50 because this is the height of the image view. We're going to say dot integral for both of these. Whoops. And that will round up all of the floating points to an integer. We're going to fix this error by hitting this and hitting fix. Hit Command B. Should be compiling. Let's go back to that notifications view controller. And this guy can simply be notification view, so we don't have to do that view setup here. And what I would also recommend you do is do lazy var. And what the lazy keyword does is it only instantiates this once we call it. So we might not need this in the beginning. Let's say we do have notifications. So it's a slight optimization in your memory usage to not instantiate it if we don't need it. So what I will go ahead and do, just so we can, mock it out and show you guys, we're just going to say view add subview for the no notifications view. And in here, we're going to say no notifications view frame is going to be CGRect with a XY width and height. And let's see if we can do 0, 0. We'll say view.width over 2, view.width over 2. And let's see if we can get away with just centering it like this. Go ahead and hit Command R. And let's see if that view shows up. Beautiful. So basically we've created this square view. It has our bell icon. It has no notifications yet. And these two subviews are inside of the notifications view right here. And I think the height is a little much. So we're going to say this is over maybe the height is over view.width over 4. Let's see what that looks like. Because the bell seems a little higher than it really should be. All right, much better. So yeah, let's go ahead and put these in a private function. Layout no notifications view. And the reason we're doing that is we're only going to lay it out if we know we have no notifications. The second we call this property, it instantiates it, so it makes our lazy kind of useless. And we only want to add it as a subview if we need it. So we're going to actually rename this to add no notifications view. And we're also going to say in here, table view is hidden is true. And we uncommented, actually this should be table view still. And we probably also want a spinner in here in the middle that shows that we're loading our notifications. So let's actually go ahead and create that as well. And that's going to be a UI activity indicator view, which is a spinner. And we're going to say the spinner is UI activity indicator view. And I think we can give this guy a style. So the style we're going to say is, we'll just say large. And we can go ahead and return this. And the property I like to set is hide when stopped. Basically, when the animation stops, it automatically hides. And we're going to say spinner.tint color is going to be label. And let's see, we should always add this as a subview because we're going to want a spinner to make that initial request. We're going to say spinner.start animating. We're also going to say the table view is hidden by default because we're not going to have content as soon as the app launches. We're going to have to fetch it. And we should assign a frame to the spinner, which is going to be a CZ rect 0, 0, 100, 100, and then we can say spinner dot centered. That center is the center of the view. And let's see if the spinner now shows up, which it in fact should. Beautiful. So this is the part where we would fetch from Firebase, and once it shows up, we would get rid of the spinner and show our notifications. So let's make this unhide the table view so we can see it. Let's get rid of the start animating as well for now, since we're gonna mock out the cells. All right, so cool, we've got our table view cells here. We're just about getting it time. Let's see, let's create those cells real quick. We might have to wrap them in the next video as well. So I'm gonna create a new folder in here under cells and call this notifications. And let's see, so we're gonna create 2 cells, so new file, Cocoa Touch class. So I'm gonna call this notification follow event table view cell. Go ahead and hit enter twice to create it. And we want one more. And this is going to be notification like event table view cell. And go ahead and create it as such. So we could actually use one cell and really configure it to look the way we want. They are going to be fairly similar, so you could use a base class as well. We're just going to do it as 2 classes just to make our lives a little simpler. So go ahead and delete all of this nonsense as well as all of this nonsense. So let's create the follow one first and foremost. So we're going to say static let identifier. Maybe I'll just copy and paste actually once we design one of these to make our lives even easier. Go ahead and override that initializer and call super init with the style and the reuse identifier. We're going to say content view clips to bounds is true. And we're going to want to override a layout subviews. We're going to want a configure function on here to pass in a view model or a model. We'll just make it a string for now. We're also going to want to override prepare for reuse, super prepare for reuse. And you're going to see an error pop up in here for the other initializer. So hit this and hit fix so it stubs it out for you. And we're going to want our subviews. So the subviews that we're going to want are a profile image view. And this is going to be a UI image view. And if you haven't noticed, we basically added this to that other cell we designed, but I'm personally a fan of just typing things out. Keeps your kind of syntactical speed of typing nice and quick, as well as just helps your like syntax recall. So I would say if you're learning, try to type out as much code as possible than copy and pasting, because you're cutting corners and not doing any favors for yourself. So we're going to say scale aspect fill. So that's that. Now we are going to want a text label. I'll just call it label. Let's do that. Let's do that. Call this label. Label. Text color is going to be label. Label dot, what else do we want? Number of lines is going to be 0, so with line wraps. And which one is this? This is the follow event table view cell. So we also want that follow button. So we're just going to create a follow button, and this is going to be a UI button. And let's go ahead and return it. So we're going to configure it in the configure function because this represents if we are following or unfollowing the person who has just followed us, not necessarily one state or the other. And we're going to want to delegate off of here as well because we need to figure out what happens or how the controller can handle once that button is tapped. So we're going to say func did tap follow unfollow button, and this should pass in the model, which we'll just call a string for now. We'll say this is any object, so it can be used in a weak fashion. And this is going to be weak var delegate. Hit Command B. Quite a bit of code we just added in there. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. For anybody, if you guys think I am, please do let me know in the comments so I can slow down and explain things more. But basically that's the basic setup. So we've got our 3 subviews. So let's add them here to our content view. We want the profile image view, the label, and the, what's the last one? The follow button. In prepare for reuse, we are simply going to say follow button, set title nil for normal, follow button, background color is also nil, and the border width is 0. The labels text is going to be nilled out, and the profile image views image will also be nilled out. And layout subviews, we'll probably do this in the next video since the calculation takes a little bit of thought process. And let's actually be lazy and let's copy and paste this to our other cell and tweak it real fast. So let's paste that there and let's change the class name and everything. So paste that there. This is going to be this delegate. The identifier changes. Now this is going to show likes. So we're going to show the same profile image, same label, but instead of a follow button, we're going to show a post button. And we're going to do that. We're going to make sure we add a post button. And this will show either a video thumbnail or an image of the post that was liked. And tapping on it should basically open up that post, but tapping on the notification to take you to the user that has liked said post. So we can say the post button set background image in the prepare for reuse is nil. So we go ahead and nil it out basically. And layout subview, we won't touch that right now. And let's go ahead and change the delegate for this. So did tap interacted with post. Let's see, what's a better name for this? Did tap related post button with model, which is simply a string for now. Hit Command B, should be compiling. And before we wrap up, let's go to our profile view controller and let's register these cells. So here we have our table view stuff. This is our profile. What I meant is the notification view controller. And in the table, the first one we're going to register is the like event table view cell. And this is going to be for that dot identifier. I think that's what we called it, unless I copy and pasted wrong. Let's see, like event table view cell. Yeah, that looks correct. Let's come back here. Let's get rid of this and hit Command B, make sure it's compiling. Table view, register the cell name dot self for the cell name dot identifier. Beautiful. And then we want one more. And this is going to be, I think I call this a follow event. Yep, perfect. And change the identifier as well. And that does that. So let's add some comments and make this a little cleaner. We're going to want a collection on here for all the notifications we pull from Firebase instead of these random return 0 rows and such. We'll do that in the next video. We've made pretty good progress on our app, done a lot of the view stuff. So I'd be pretty pumped to see what this looks like in the next video with some mock data. So that said, if you haven't destroyed the like button already, make sure to do so. As always, subscribe for these daily uploads. Helps me stay motivated to make all these videos for all of you. Comment down below with any questions, any concerns, bugs, errors, whatever it may be. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next part.